Hello everyone, I'm the Saxy Gamer. Today we're here for yet another Civilization 6 Leader Spotlight, where today we'll be taking a look at Teddy Roosevelt of America. So luckily for me, it's going to be quite the easy day for pronunciation. So getting right into things, let's take a look at Teddy Roosevelt's first ability, which is known as Roosevelt Corollary. It provides, it makes it so that units receive +5 combat strength in their home continent, so that would be the continent that your capital is on. And in addition to that, you get +1 appeal to all tiles in a city with a national park, and you gain the Rough Rider as a unique unit when they research rifling. So Roosevelt Corollary it's a fairly decent ability. The 5 combat strength on their home continent is not too great. It can be nice for just defending against like other people that are going to be attacking you, especially on deity, you know, in the early game whenever everybody's super aggressive. Having that +5 combat strength can be very nice. The real thing that's super good though is the +1 appeal to all tiles in a city with a national park. So, in the late game, whenever you're able to build national parks, obviously, like, building national parks is based on the appeal of tiles, and seaside resorts also are based on the appeal of tiles, and the appeal of tiles influences how much tourism they produce. So, in getting +1 appeal to all tiles with a national park, that's going to make it A, so that your national park is just going to straight up produce more tourism, all seaside resorts in the city will produce more tourism, and there are going to be more tiles available to build both seaside resorts and national parks. So if you combine that ability with the Eiffel Tower, you can get so many seaside resorts and so many national parks, and it really is just really good. It helps you just produce a lot of tourism in the late game. So overall, Roosevelt Corollary, it's pretty good. It's more so on like the more decent side. It's not overpowered like crazy good, but it is still fairly decent nonetheless. Roosevelt's second ability is known as Founding Fathers, which makes it so that all his diplomatic policy slots in the current government are converted to wildcard slots. So that's very similar to Jadwiga's one ability that makes all her military slots into wildcard slots, and it has a similar effect. It's a little bit worse than Jadwiga's just because most of the governments don't have as many diplomatic slots as they do military slots, so that'll at least get you maybe 1 or 2 more wildcard slots, which then you can use for anything. So it is a little bit helpful. It makes you a little bit more flexible throughout the game. Maybe you can run a few more culture-based cards or like a few more science-based cards, or pretty much anything that you need to kind of like have you catch up or get a little bit ahead of the AI. So Founding Fathers, it's pretty okay. It really just gives you a little bit more flexibility, and flexibility is always a good thing. Moving on to the first of Roosevelt's unique units, we have the Rough Rider, which is a totally unique cavalry unit that is unlocked with rifling. And for the sake of things, I'm going to be comparing it to the cavalry unit just because that's the most similar thing around. So it has a melee strength of 67, which is up +5 from cavalry, a movement of 5, which is the same as cavalry, a production cost of 385, which is 55 more than the cavalry, and a maintenance cost of 2 gold per turn, which is 3 less than the cavalry. So that part is super strong. It has some special abilities as well, so it gains culture from kills on America's home continent, and the culture that you get, I believe, is equal to 50% of the combat strength of the unit that you kill. So pretty much the same thing as Gorgo's ability, except it only applies to the Rough Riders. It also gets +10 combat strength when in hills and requires no resources. So overall, the Rough Rider, it's a very strong unique unit, but the fact that it's totally unique kind of hurts it, much like a lot of the other totally unique units. Just because you cannot pre-build them, so you can't get like a Rough Rider rush or anything like that. They do have pretty decent combat strength though, you know, 5 more than cavalry. You can get them a little bit earlier. They do have the higher production cost though, which really does sucks. But they also do have the lower maintenance cost, which is really nice because that'll keep you from going too far into the hole on maintenance cost, especially if you're running, I can never remember what the name of the policy is, but the one that reduces unit maintenance by 1, then that's going to make it so that these only have 1 gold per turn maintenance cost, which is absolutely insane for how strong they are. So if you're able to build them very fast, then Rough Riders can be extremely good. They can get you a little bit more culture, they can destroy like a bunch of other units, and if they're fighting on your home continent, not only are they going to be getting culture, but they're also going to be getting +5 combat strength because of Roosevelt's ability. So if you're in your home continent on a hill, you're going to be getting +15 combat strength over the 67 already. So these can get up to like ridiculous combat strength numbers for their era. So the Rough Rider, it is a very strong unit, but it's once again, it sucks that you can't pre-build it, and it does have a little bit of a higher production cost, so it will take a little bit to produce them. But if you are able to produce them quickly, they are very worthwhile, and they don't even cost that much gold-wise. So a pretty decent unit, I'd say. Moving on to Roosevelt's second unique unit, we have the P-51 Mustang, which replaces the fighter. It has a melee strength of 85, which is up +5 from the fighter, a range strength of 85, which is also +5 from the fighter, a move range of 6, which is 2 more than the fighter, and an attack range of 4, which is the same as the fighter. It has a few special abilities as well. It gets +5 combat strength against other fighter units, it gains +50% more XP, and it requires no resources. So the P-51 Mustang is really, it's very underwhelming. It's not really all that great, and I think the reason for that is just because of how clunky, like, air combat tends to be in Civ 6. So getting a little bit more strength against, you know, like, everything, just because you have the +5 combat strength in melee and range against the fighter, it is nice, and you do get +5 combat strength against other fighters. But I honestly don't even know how many times I have ever had 2 fighters fight each other in Civ 6. It's such a rare occurrence, and air combat as a whole was just so clunky that I don't find fighter units to be particularly useful. I do think that bombers can be useful to, like, get rid of city walls, but fighters I just generally don't find to be very useful, so I don't tend to find the P-51 Mustang, like, very good at all. It's non-impactful to a game normally, and if I had a fighter, or if I had a P-51 Mustang, like, there wouldn't be very much of a difference no matter which one I had, so I don't consider it to be a very good unique unit. As far as America's unique building is concerned, we have the Film Studio, which replaces the Broadcast Center. It provides +4 culture, +1 great artist point, +2 great musician points, +1 citizen slot, and 1 great work of art slot. And all of that is the exact same as the Broadcast Center, but the only thing that separates the Broadcast Center from the Film Studio is that the Film Studio makes it so that the city that it is built in outputs +100% tourism to any civ that has entered the modern era. So the Film Studio as a whole is actually incredibly good. It's super insane, just because of its special ability. I mean, obviously, that's the only thing that separates it from the Broadcast Center, so that's the only thing that can make it insane. But outputting +100% tourism to any civ that has reached the modern era is absolutely absurd. Because if you're playing a culture game and you have a theater square in every city, then you can build a film studio in every city, and that will get you +100% tourism just, like, straight up to everybody in every single city, so as a whole. So if you're, you know, making 2,000 tourism per turn or something like that, and you have film studios in every city, then you're going to now be outputting 4,000 tourism per turn to every single civ, and then you're going to have the additional modifiers from, like, trade routes and stuff like that on top of that. So the film studio is incredibly good. It allows you to amass, like, an amazing amount of tourism, and then if you combine that with the fact that, you know, they get better national parks and seaside resorts because of the appeal that they can get from having national parks, you can get ridiculous tourism outputs with America. So the film studio is an incredibly good building just because of that double tourism in the cities that it's built in. And now with all of this in mind, let's go ahead and talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses of Teddy Roosevelt and the Americans in Civ 6. So the first strength is that, well, I just talked about it, and that's that the film studio is quite strong. And the big thing with the film studio is just that it provides +100% tourism in the city that it's built in. So if you build one in every city, then you're going to be getting just straight up double tourism, like, as a whole, which is something that no other civ in the game can even come close to getting, because getting double tourism on top of, you know, when you have computers, which already doubles tourism, so you can have 4 times the normal tourism in a city, which is absolutely insane. Like, nobody else is going to even come close to having that much tourism, so I do consider that to be quite the strength. It does suck that the film studio doesn't have any other bonuses, but I think that that bonus alone is good enough to make it one of the best buildings in the game, especially for culture victory. The other strength of America is that they really do have some nice synergies with their other abilities, or with their abilities and their other attributes. Namely, just the one that makes it so that their national parks provide +1 appeal to the city that they're in. Because what that allows you to do is it allows you to get more tourism in your national parks. It's going to allow you to build more national parks. It's going to allow you to build more seaside resorts. It's going to give those seaside resorts more tourism. And then if you build a film studio in those cities, it's going to double all that as well. So it's going to make it even more effective. So their ability to produce tourism works well with the combination of like their abilities and buildings and such. So I do consider that synergy to be quite strong, and really it's what makes America as strong as they are in Civ 6. As far as weaknesses go, though, they are really weak until the industrial era, and that's the thing that really sucks about America, is that up until the industrial era, you don't have very many bonuses. Really, the only bonus you get is the ability to run, you know, maybe like an extra wild card slot, and also the +5 combat strength on your home continent. Because none of the unique units come into effect until the Industrial Era. The film studio is not gained until the Industrial Era. You're not going to be getting national parks until the Industrial Era. So all of that kind of sucks because in the early game, really the only thing that you're going to have that's going to set you apart from just having no bonuses is your +5 combat strength and your wildcard slot. So that is really something that sucks. It does make you quite vulnerable in the early game. Luckily though, like having +5 combat strength on your home continent makes you a little bit more defensible, but if someone is really dedicated, they can take you out of the game quite fast, just because you're not going to have all that much to help you out, and it is going to make it a little bit harder to keep up with like the AI or, you know, someone else that's like a really experienced player that's like playing with some civ that has a ton of bonuses. It's going to make it really hard to keep up or catch up until you reach that Industrial Era. So that is a huge weakness of America in Civ 6. And now it is that time to give America their tier rankings. So if you're new to the series, what I do is I give each civilization a tier ranking in each of the 4 victory types, so domination, science, culture, and religion, and those tier rankings just kind of gauge their general proficiency at each of the rankings. I also give them an overall ranking as well that takes into account other factors such as their spawn bias, their versatility, their unique units, and that ranking just kind of pits them up against the other civs in the game. So all of our rankings go from S to F, with S being the highest and F being terrible. So let's go ahead and rank America. So domination's up first, and I think that America is deserving of a B in domination. They do have their +5 combat strength on their home continent, so that is going to make it really easy to take out your neighbors, especially in the early game whenever +5 combat strength can be quite significant because everybody's on the same tech level. So getting that +5 combat strength and make it easy to take out, you know, whoever's nearest to you. It also can make it so that you won't get taken out if someone tries to attack you. It'll make it a little bit easier to survive, especially considering how aggressive the deity AI are. In addition to that, they also have their Rough Rider, which is a very strong unit. It does suck that you can't pre-build them and that they do have a fairly high production cost, but they do have high combat strength, they have low maintenance cost, and they are cavalry units, so they have high movement as well, and they can also help, you know, give you a little bit of extra culture, so they're pretty good. The P-51 Mustang, though, also sucks. It's just not really all that impactful, so it's really a mixed bag with domination, some good, some not so good, so for that reason, I think they deserve a B. Science is up next, and I think they deserve a C in science. They're pretty much just average in science. They don't really get any bonuses. You could technically use the wildcard slot to run maybe like 1 or 2 more scientific policy cards, but I don't consider that to be overly impactful, so for that reason, they're pretty much just average, and I think they deserve a C. Culture is up next, and, well, I think America deserves an S in culture, if for nothing other than just having the film studio. So the film studio, as I've, you know, like, raved about it all like, pretty much the entire episode, the film studio providing plus 100% tourism to a city is absolutely insane, because if you build one of those in every city, then you're going to be getting double tourism overall. And then combine that with computers, and you're going to be getting quadruple tourism. And then combine that with the fact that their national parks will provide +1 appeal to all the tiles in the city, and that's going to produce more tourism. That's going to allow you to produce more national parks. It's going to allow you to build more seaside resorts, and it's going to increase their tourism, which is then going to get doubled by the film studio. So they have a lot of synergies, and they're able to just produce a massive amount of tourism. So for that reason, I think they are definitely one of the better culture civs in the game, and they are deserving of the S tier ranking. Religion's last, and, well, I think they deserve a C in religion, much for the same reasons as they did for science. They're really just average. You could technically run, you know, some extra policies to get a little bit more faith or something like that, but aside from that, they're really just average. And the thing is, they aren't even that great at getting a great profit, because since you have to have a diplomatic slot in your government, that means that you're going to have to wait at least until a tier 1 government before you would be able to run the policy card to get the great profit points. And if you have to wait until your tier 1 government, well, I mean, you can just run it as a wild card for any other civ whenever you reach a tier 1 government, so that's not even a bonus at all. So for that reason, I think they are fairly average and deserve a C. And for their overall ranking, I think that they deserve a B. They are a fairly strong civ. They're very good in culture. They're just kind of and everything else. And the big thing that really sucks with them is that throughout the game, they're not really going to be that very strong. It's not until the very late game that they actually pop off and they're able to get a lot of tourism, you know, and actually be a competent civ. Because throughout the game, you know, they really are going to fall behind against some of the other civs that get consistent bonuses throughout the game. And they are even a little bit difficult to use, because if you're not knowledgeable on how to use national parks and how to use seaside resorts, they're really not going to be quite as good. They're not going to live up to their full potential. And just due to this difficulty and the fact that not all of their attributes are great, I think that they're better than average, but they're not overpowered or they're not particularly great. So I think they deserve a B. So thank you everyone for watching. I've been the Saxy Gamer. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you're looking for more Civilization 6 content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.